Welcome to episode 220 of the XS Noize Podcast, your go-to destination for in-depth conversations with the biggest names in music. I'm your host, Mark Millar. Thanks for listening. In this episode, I'm joined by a true icon of post-punk and alternative music, Will Sargent from Echo The Bunnymen. If you missed the last episode, I had a fantastic chat with Simon Fowler, frontman of Ocean Colour Scene. So check it out, and if you enjoy the podcast, don't forget to follow for free on your favourite streaming platform, leave a rating, and drop a comment. It really helps us keep bringing you great conversations. Now, let's get into it. As Echo and the Bunnymen's legendary guitarist, Will Sargent has shaped the sound of an era with his distinctive playing style, crafting atmospheric, hypnotic and cinematic soundscapes that have stood the test of time. From the early days of the Liverpool scene to classic albums like Crocodiles, Heaven Up Here and Ocean Rain, his influence is undeniable. Beyond the Bunnymen, Will has explored his experimental side with Weird as Fish, his avant-garde solo project, and he's also a published author, having released 2 acclaimed books, offering a fascinating insight into his life, music, and the evolution of the band. In this episode, we'll be diving into his incredible career, his creative process, his writing, and what's next for him and the Bunnymen. So sit back, turn up the volume, and enjoy my conversation with the one and only Will Sargent. Hi, Will. Welcome to the XS Noize Podcast.
Thanks. Cheers.
It's great.
Up the Reds.
Up the Reds. Yes, up the Reds. So how's life been treating you recently?
Yeah, all right. It's been pretty mellow. You know, we did a big tour in America last year and Britain and that, and it was great. But since then, we haven't really been doing many gigs. Done a couple of odd little things, but been good. Downtime, Christmas, and all that stuff, and you know, getting through the year. I don't like the winter. It's too. It's more the light, you know, because it's dark early. I don't like that. It gets me down. You know, I get that. You know, what's it called? Sad.
That's it.
Yeah, I get really. I don't get like suicidal or nothing, you know what I mean? But I do get a bit cheesed off.
Yeah, well, at least the days are getting longer now.
Makes you feel better as soon as you wake up and it's light and bright, and you know.
Your homemade experimental project, Weird as Fish, which was recorded in 1978, remained unreleased for over 25 years, and now it's getting an official release. Now, I first learned about this when I read your first book. Why did you choose to release it after all these years?
Well, I'm sort of, I've done some stuff on that label, that AV8 label, you know, and they sort of wanted to do it, and I said, yeah, okay, because it's never been on vinyl. I thought, get it on vinyl, be interesting. You know, there's no big master plan behind it or anything, you know. I know it's a quirky thing. It's just an interesting artifact, you know, to me. And I put it in the same sort of category as metal machine music. I like it because of the cover.
Well, you must be pretty proud of it. So, I mean, this was pre-Bunnymen era, around about the time the Bunnymen started. So, you know, I haven't heard it yet. I asked for a stream of it, but I never got it, so I don't know what it sounds like.
It's pretty mental. It's right. Like, you know, in today's climate of modern music and with all like, you know, ambient stuff and kind of, you know, experimental music about it, doesn't sound that mad, you know, but it is sort of a bit mad. But I was always coming at things from an experimental angle anyway, because I didn't really know how to play. You know, I can't play Out of the Rising Sun, for example, or whatever. You know, I'm not interested. So it's always like, I'm always just using the guitar as a kind of like sound source and tool to make interesting things that I've never heard before, really. So it's kind of a lot of that going on. And I was like playing around with tape machines. I had I had a reel-to-reel and a cassette player. So I was like recording it on one and then bouncing it across and then, you know, recording it back and playing along. And it was kind of, it's like now when I listen to it, I think, how the hell did I do that? You know, it's so complicated to think about doing it, but I just did it naturally, you know. But it's, yeah, I file under uneasy listening.
Well, you've worked on various experimental projects, including Glide and Poltergeist. How does working outside of the Bunnymen compare? Does it feel more freeing creatively?
Yeah. Yeah, it does now. Years ago when it was like the four of us, it was a different kettle of fish, Everybody could put ideas in and everybody was listened to. Sorry, like that now.
You've written two fantastic memoirs, Bunnyman and Echoes. What inspired you to start writing? Was it something you'd always wanted to do?
Yeah, it's something I've always sort of wanted to do, but something that I thought I could never be able to do, because what happened was there was a label put out the first four albums in like really nice books, like booklets with like a hardcover, and they wanted some writing about recording it and all that stuff, and I did it, and I did the first four albums, and it was kind of wow, I can do this. This is quite interesting. And I was talking with Les, because Les has got brilliant photographs, because he was always taking photos, on tour, like I was as well, but he had nice cameras and knew what he was doing, whereas I had like kind of Instamatics and things like that. And I was trying to get Les to do a photo book. And it was just nailing him down to doing it. It took ages. And then in the end, I sort of said, if you're not going to do it, I'll do it. And then I started thinking, well, he's got all the good photos, so maybe I should just do like a memoir kind of thing. And then I did an interview with a magazine called Vinyl, something to do with Long Live Vinyl or something like that. It was a very short-lived, monthly magazine. I don't think it exists anymore, but it was all about vinyl and collecting vinyl. And the girl that came down was this girl called Jennifer Bickerdike. And she'd written some books. She'd written one on, she did one called Why Vinyl Matters, or something like that. And she'd done an eco book and some other bits and bobs. And she got me in touch with this agent, because I was talking to her about writing books and stuff. And I sent him some of my bits of writing, and he liked it. And then he passed it on to a publisher, which was, they were called Little Brown. Which is weird because my mate's dog is called Little Brown, Yeah, so she sort of started out, instigated the kind of like meeting thing and all that. And then she edited the first book and helped a bit, with like reading stuff and telling me what she thought was wrong with it or whatever. And then, just took it from there really. And then I realised I could do it. And it's not a massive task to write a book. Like I can do 3,000 words a day easy, and that's 10 pages or something, so it's kind of, that's what I was averaging, between say 2,000 and 5,000 words a day. But you have to be in the right sort of headspace to do it. It's kind of weird because I haven't really done a lot. I haven't done a lot on the third. I've been trying to like prepare myself to just tackle it, So that's why it happened. It was just like, wow, I could do this, And I was, and I really loved doing the descriptive bits, of what it was like and what the weather was like, and things like that. When it was snowing in Mellon and we were going to school in the snow with sandals on and all that sort of stuff, And it was like going back to your childhood and kind of being in a time machine, floating back to the 1960s in the little village of Mellon where I grew up, on the outskirts of Liverpool. And I could remember loads and loads about it, And a lot of people from Mellon have read it and love it, because it reminds them of that time as well, like all my mates in Mellon that still live there. They've all read it and I get dead good comments off them. Oh, I remember him, I remember that, But I see it as like a bit of a social history thing as well. It's not just like, it's not all about music. It's about what was going on around at the time and how you felt. So that's, that there was somebody made a comment on, I think it was on Audible or on something on Amazon saying, didn't really get to know what Will was all about and all that. But it's a memoir. It's not an autobiography. It's kind of a different thing, It's like, it's remembering what went on. And there is feelings in there, but it's not all about, I don't know. I wouldn't even know how to start writing that sort of stuff, I like descriptive describing things,
Yeah, that's what I found fascinating about it, because your writing is incredibly vivid. I mean, did you keep journals over the years, or was it all just based on memory?
I'd say 80% memory, 20% checking it on the internet, like dates and things like that. Like there's always somebody out there that's went to a gig and has written something about it. Oh, they did this one, or this was the set list, or this was the date, and this band supported them, or they were on with whoever. And, you can kind of put yourself back into them rooms. And like there's the brilliant one. There's like with the YMCA gig that we did with Joy Division, and we went on first, and there was Tear Up Explodes were on, and Seymour Stein came to that one, the bloke from the brand Sire Records. That's the one where he decided he wanted to sign us. But, there's on the internet, there's actually a tape of that gig. So I knew exactly what we played, how we played it, what we sounded like, what Max said. We could almost hear like the whispering between me and Les on stage or whatever. Yeah, and I've seen pictures of the place, and I've seen pictures of us doing a gig at the place as well. My brother took photos. So it's kind of, you've got a lot of information there, it's not all memory. It's like, there's a lot of stuff that you can sift around and find. And then it jogs memories, And I remember watching Joy Division on that day, and they were amazing, like they blew everybody away anyway, because it was kind of so new and different, but it still had punk overtones to it,
How did the process of writing compare to making music? Was it more difficult, or did you find it freeing in a different way?
It's kind of a bit more rigid and a bit more like you can't waver off into fantasy land. Like I do a little bit, but I'll tell the reader I'm wavering off into fantasy land or whatever. But with music, you can go anywhere. You can do it's very similar to like the painting. When, I just start and see what happens. And something always seems to pop up and think, oh, that bit's good, I'll keep that bit. And you keep going and you build it up. It's pretty similar, but I'd say it's a bit more structured and a bit more disciplined,
The books paint the brilliant picture of the early punk and post-punk scenes. What was it like being part of that cultural shift in the late 70s?
Well, we knew it was important. We knew it was like, the squares hate this, so it's got to be good, When you're right in it and you don't sort of notice it as much, it's just normality to you. It's like when I was in the house with my mum and dad and we were just fighting all the time. It was just normality, I didn't know any different. So it was kind of like we just dreamt of being like the Velvet Underground or Love or the Doors or something, It always seemed to be the American bands that we liked more. Or I did anyway. Television, the Ramones, Pere Ubu. We did all love The Fall. The Fall were like a gel that kept us all together, We all loved The Fall. And Bowie. Like Bowie was he transcended everything. It didn't matter whether you were a punk or whatever, Bowie was still king, So it was great. It was like probably the best time ever. I can't see it happening, or something as major as that happening again. Just doesn't seem, everything seems so fragmented now, and kind of, there's too many options. People got too much choice now. It was football or music when we were kids, or smashing windows, you know what I mean? Air guns and shit like that, throwing bricks in the canal.
Liverpool is very, very lucky musically, because obviously you had the Cavern Club, but then you had Eric's, and then those bands and artists you just mentioned all came through.
Yeah.
Eric's, and you were able to see them.
Yeah. It was, Eric's was the catalyst for everything, really. Without that, don't think, I'd still be flipping burgers, It was just became like our second home, And a lot of people's in Liverpool, everybody, all the other bands, Holly and all that crew, Jane Casey. It was just where we went. And it was quite cliquey. It wasn't all friendly, super friendly, like you sort of, wasn't like the Summer of Love. There was a lot of sarcasm going around, stuff like that, and people, if you were, say we got in the paper one week and another band didn't, there'd be like a bit of snidey comments or whatever, from us as well, you know. Like, we were just as bad. So it wasn't all, we were all mates, but there was a rivalry between everybody as well.
But was that not healthy?
Yeah, it was good because it pushed you, it pushed you forward and, we'll do this now. But we weren't sitting there thinking, oh, what can we do to upset Pete Wiley or whatever? We were just doing what we were doing.
In the book, you've captured the highs of success, but also some struggles. Was it difficult revisiting certain moments?
Yeah, a little bit. But, I'm a big boy. I can deal with it. I'm not scared of it. I put stuff in the book that's like other people might not have put in because it was reality. And I'm not, I'm into the truth. I like the truth, People try and change the truth.
Yeah, you were very candid about your childhood.
Yeah, yeah. And my brother and my sister read the book. My sister said, yeah, it was just like that. Yeah. My brother and my sister had a more harder time than me. For some reason, I was sort of considered the blue-eyed boy, I don't know why. I haven't quite figured that one out. But I never used to get hit or, I get, the odd crack around the ear hole kind of thing, but nothing like my brother or even my sister did, So it was kind of a bit weird. My sister confronted me dad once and said, why did you treat us like that? We were just little kids. And he was like, what? Don't know what you're on about. It was a bit, she told me that. That was a bit strange. I think, I don't know, I think there's something up with him. I think he had some sort of spectrum kind of situation. There was no emotion, except when Liverpool lost.
You've covered your early years in the band's rise. Do you have plans for a third book? I mean, and would you ever write about your solo projects, art or creative ventures?
It might do a bit. Yeah, maybe. I think I don't know whether I've written about grind, have I? Have we got up to that yet? Probably not.
I'm only 3 quarters through the second book, so you haven't mentioned it so far.
I'm going to have to read them again so I don't repeat myself. Yeah, there'll be like stuff, I've always been interested in, like when we went on tour, like going to foreign countries was incredible. Like, I'd never been anywhere and it just sort of blew your mind that there was these other places that exist. I sometimes think when we've been on tour and we've been in these amazing places, say in America or wherever, and then I come home and you kind of forget about it all, but you're just dealing with your day to day. And then now and then I'll just sit down and think, God, that road in Minneapolis is still there and there's still people going up and down that shops there that we went to. And I'll kind of put myself back in that little bit, and we've had a good laugh there or found a nice hat or something, and it's kind of weird. It's like you just dropped into these situations and plucked out again, on tour. It's odd. And that last tour we had was great because we had like quite a few days off. And so we had time to potter around and see a bit, So there was like a few of us grouped together and we'd go out and go on boats up and down the river and all that. We were on that river where that bloody plane and helicopter crashed. Just lately. Potomac, is it? Potomac? Something like that in Washington. And that was weird because there was planes flying over all the time when we were on this boat. Yeah, I'm not talking about, Duran Duran here, her name is Rio. We're talking about the ferry. $8.
Were there any stories you left out of the books that you wish you'd included?
There was one thing, and I'm putting in this third one, but it's a bit, I don't know whether to use it or not. It's a bit racy.
Right.
So I don't know. It was a bit of a love story thing, I don't know whether to put it in or not. I don't know whether it's a bit cheesy. It was an early doors romance with a Brazilian girl. But I don't know whether it's going in or not. I have written about it. It's a bit too, I don't know, it's like, I don't really know what to do. I know she possibly dead now. So, but I lost contact and all that, so I don't know.
The Bunnymen's early sound blended post-punk with psychedelic and cinematic textures. How did you develop your signature guitar style?
I didn't. It was just inability to play properly. It was just make it up as you go along kind of thing, It was years and years before I noticed that the notes went in alphabetical order. No one had told me. It was just like, I'll just play something and think, oh, that sounds good. And then I'll just experiment and find somewhere else where it could maybe go, or I don't know how it works. But, there's a lot of wrong notes that I play before I find the right ones, It's not always, sometimes it's instant, but a lot of the time I'm struggling to find where to go and things like that. And then the problem is remembering it. Terrible at remembering what I've just done. Like if we're in the studio and I'm doing something and something happens, I'll forget how to do it straight away. And what did I do? What was I doing? And it's just gone. Because they're all like a lot of them are like, the overdubs and stuff are kind of instantaneous almost, The big riffs and things like that, you they become kind of ingrained in you. But the odd little bits that you do that are just like little throwaway kind of things. And sometimes someone will go, oh, what's that thing you did 3 takes ago? And you go, I don't know. And you have to try and figure it out or whatever. But it makes it interesting and fresh, all that, It's like, otherwise you just become, you go start going down the same road all the time. The same little riffs, the same blues-based guitar licks, which I've never really known how to do. I like bands that do that, Cream and, Led Zeppelin and people like that who do all that sort of stuff. I think the only one I've ever done was that track Flowers, where I did a bit on that, on one of the later albums. It was kind of being a bit rock and roll.
Are there any particular effects pedals or guitars that have been essential to your sound over the years?
Well, the Telecaster. Started out with the Telecaster and had that sort of brittle, hard kind of scratchiness that I kind of liked from, I just liked the Telecaster because I liked the shape of it, really. I didn't really know what it could do. And I liked Dr. Feelgood, Wilco Johnson. Thought saw them a few times early doors. I thought they were great. I suppose it was just because, a lot of people went to see him. They didn't go and see Lee Brillo, he was brilliant as well. A lot of people went they were all waiting for Wilco to kick off, just sort of strutting up and down the stage like a demented chicken, Brilliant. I remember the gigs where it would just be like everyone's on the edge of the seat, and it's like as soon as he kicked off, it was like they'd go mental, in the Empire in Liverpool or the Stadium. They were a brilliant band then. And they never seem to capture it on the record, the first record. It's the same songs and everything, but it's a bit tame, There's a much better thing on YouTube, which is a live gig of them playing, and it's a lot better than the record. The record's quite nice in a way, It's a bit just tame, I suppose the word.
But does not happen a lot, really.
Yeah, the thing with them was they were raw, so it wasn't really a lot they could do in the studio to make it sound more exciting. But when you're in a live situation and it's dead loud and the crowd are all going nuts and you're watching it, it's a different thing, isn't it? There's like a whole new several dimensions to it that make it better. Like I always thought we were better live than on record. I think we all did. Because
I would agree.
Things happen that were like magical little things that happen,
We'll talk about some of the albums. Well, if you don't mind, you've talked about the first 4 albums to death. I'm sure you're fed up talking about them. So I'd like to sort of talk about the later albums. So I'll name a Bunnyman album and you can share a memory or first thought that comes to your mind. Is that okay?
Yeah, bearing in mind I haven't played them since we made them.
Yeah, well, just whatever comes into your heads. We'll start off with the Echo and the Bunnymen or the Grey album from 1987. What do you think about that?
That was kind of when things changed a bit, but there's still some good stuff on it. And there's some good ideas. We had a laugh recording it, and we went to Connie Plank's studio in Germany to do some of it in Cologne, outside Cologne. That was good. That was a good, another good little trip. And we did a lot of it in a place called the Workhouse, I think it was called, on the Old Kent Road, and it was owned by Manfred Mann, I think. And that was when Laurie Latham kind of came into the situation and started producing it. And he's a very precise producer. He wants everything exactly right. And I didn't really want it all to be exactly right, But we never had any arguments or anything. He was a lovely fella and got on with him. And it's just the timing of things, he had to get it absolutely perfect, you'd be moving Pete DeFreitas' drums around a bit, like on the actual tape, delaying them, or, a millisecond or something, or a tenth of a millisecond. I'd be like, what? Just too much, too much accuracy. I think you need a bit of swing and a bit of movement in things to make it come to life. Like the Velvet Underground be rubbish, they did it to a click track. It was all click track to the max, Click tracks are great to get everybody coming in at the beginning, and then you can just get rid of it and just go with the flow, It's kind of everything's done with a click track nowadays, It's difficult to not with it being a computer situation. But yeah, it's a great album. It was all right to do. It was, I didn't really like it at the end. I thought the production was too slick, too nice.
Some good tracks, Lips Like Sugar, Bedbugs and Ballyhoo,
Yeah, well, yeah, like Bedbugs Ballyhoo was the thing that Les had for years, and we needed a B-side. And he had this bass line thing, and him and Pete just started playing, and I just did a few little bits on it. And then Matt came in with the lyrics and that, and it was, it was one of my favourite ones. Like, so it just sort of happened, it wasn't like, we went to, I think it was Strawberry Studios, owned by 10cc in Stockport or something like that. And we just had to come up with this. We had to come up with a B-side. Let's say, well, I've got this, all that sort of, that bass thing that he did. And we just went with that. Put some like strings on the choruses. And we also put thunder on it. This is on the B-side of Dances and Horses, I think it was. Started out as a B-side. Yeah, it was a good track. The B-sides, we've got a lot of good B-sides. Like there's one called Angels and Devils. That's a really good one. And that was another one where we had a day to do it. And we would just, Bill Drummond put us in the studio in San Francisco. You've got to have a B-side. So we just like made something up on the spot kind of thing. Another good one as well. What's the other one? Simple Stuff, B-side of Rescue. That was another in the studio situation. Just come up with a riff and a few chords, and next thing you've got a song like. And that was a really good one. It was kind of a bit heavy. Then, like, Do It Clean became the B-side on about 10 songs.
We must talk about Reverberation. Different lineup and sound after Mac left the band. How do you look back on that album in that period?
It's a good record, but I think there was a lot of interesting stuff on it, and it was an interesting time, and it was a happy time, really. Everybody got on, and it was like all firing in the same direction in a way. And it was good, but it was just obvious that it wasn't sustainable after a while. We went to America on tour, and I remember we were playing in Kentucky. It was like this weird little club, and we'd been doing big places before then. Kind of the pinnacle really was the Greek Theatre in Los Angeles, selling them out, and then we're doing this little sort of chicken in the basket place, and we ended up doing. I don't know, it just seemed to be a bit depressing, And I remember sitting in this graveyard in true goth fashion, and I was just sitting there, and I was really cheesed off, and it was going dark. I was just on my own, sitting in a graveyard, as you do, and all of a sudden, all fireflies came up off the ground like that, like loads of these little lights just flickering everywhere. I'd never seen anything like that before, and it was like, wow, that's great. It revitalised me a bit. So, I don't know. We still, it just wasn't work. It just never worked. And when I said to Noel, look, I'm going to jack this in and get back with Mac, he was like, I'm surprised you did it for this long, really. He was dead cool about it. He was a big Bunnymen fan, really, so he was a bit gutted that the whole thing had broke up in the first place,
Yeah, and when you did get back with Mac, it wasn't for a Bunnymen album, it was for Elective Fiction, the Burned album. It's a great album. What was it like getting back in the studio together?
It was good. We went out, and I think Les came out with us as well. Les said it's like putting on an old pair of slippers. He comes out with some gems, lads. Yeah, so it was all right. It was good because I had a lot of input, in it. A lot of that stuff was me on my own, and Mac had a little 12-track thing in his basement. I'd go up there and record loads of stuff, and then we'd make demos and that. And then when we went to Olympic Studios with Mark Stent, Spike, he's called. He's done like loads of people like Madonna and all that lot, He's brilliant producer. And we spent ages on guitars, and that was really good,
That was probably the heaviest you've ever sounded.
Yeah, it was good. And we had like stuff like, we'd have like 3 or 4 amps going off in different rooms, so you could balance the sound between all of them. It was that good. We did some good stuff.
Why did you not continue? Because obviously you just went on next. Bunnymen came back together for Evergreen, but why did you not continue as Electric Fiction? Why did you decide it has to be a Bunnymen record?
Bunnymen shadow was too great to shake off, and we ended up like doing 9 Bunnymen songs in a 13-song set or something like that, And I like at the beginning, I just wanted to go straight back into being the Bunnymen anyway. I didn't really want to do this Electric Fiction thing. But Max said he didn't want to do the Bunnymen. I suppose he thought it had all been tainted by, them going and whatever. It all seems a bit like, who cares now, not many bands have managed to pull that one off where they change the singer, It's not really, it's a difficult one to do. I think Genesis, Buzzcocks, Ultravox,
Spiral Carpets.
In Spirals, yeah. It kind of, but Mac's such a big presence and such a, iconic singer that it's difficult to, and we'd done such a lot as well. We'd done a lot with him. And it was never going to really work, but a lot of it was done with like a kind of bitterness, because it felt like we'd done all this work. We got somewhere, And it's not about money or anything. It was about like kudos and kind of being considered a good band and all that. That's where I always wanted to be, like a sort of solid, seen as a solid band, like the Doors or the Kinks or the Who or something, all 60s bands, obviously. And it was, oh God, I've forgotten where I was going with that now. And it was dead good as well. Pulled myself into a circle and I don't know where I am. I always do that.
Well, you came back with Evergreen. It was a major moment marking the band's return. What was it like making that record?
Really good. We did it in London. And it was we had an American producer. Can't remember his name offhand. And he was good. He was really good and did some good stuff on that one. Can't remember exactly what we did on it, but we did some good stuff on it.
What are you going to do with your life? I mean, it's just been reissued. It's more softer, introspective album with orchestral elements. What can you tell me about your memories of that?
I think we did it at Amazon. And we out the doghouse. Oh yeah. No. It was not great. Not a great experience. It was kind of Les left or whatever. His mum was ill, so he had to sort of leave to look after his mum. And it was a bit grim really, the whole thing. And the vibe wasn't good between me and Mac at all. Remember, I stayed in a tent in the garden rather than be in the studio.
Really?
I camped out in the garden.
The whole session?
Yeah.
Well,
I was trying to learn the flute.
I can't remember any flute making it on the record, did it?
No, it didn't, because the flute I had's not a very good one. I'm blaming me tools here. The bad workman always blames his tools. So, yeah, I don't think it's a very good flute. And it makes you go a bit dizzy after a while. But we were doing it in a place called the Doghouse, which is owned by a bloke called Barry Barlow, who was in Jethro Tull. He was the drummer on like Passion Play and Thick as a Brick and all them. And I love Jethro Tull. So, I was like made up. And then we were just out in Henley-on-Thames one day in a junk shop and we had a flute. So I thought, I'll get a flute and become, Ian Anderson. I've got one leg I can stand on. But it was just a bit of a laugh. But it was a bit dodgy. The whole vibe was not good.
Well, your last, full studio album was Meteorites in 2014. It was a moody and atmospheric record with themes of love, loss, and mortality. What can you remember about recording that?
I remember going up to, I'm not on a lot of it, tell you the truth. I can remember going up to youth studio in Clapham or somewhere like that. And he had this studio on his top floor of his house. Weirdly, I think I'd been there before to a rave with Bill Drummond and all that crew. And, when all that stuff was going on in the early 90s, I think it was there. I might not have been there. It might have been somewhere else, but it was some mad house. And I don't know, he just seemed to be he didn't really give me a lot of direction or whatever. He just sat there smoking spliffs, and it just seemed a bit like, what's going on here? I was used to like producers being a bit more hands-on, but he was like, everything you did, it was cool, man. But, I just did a couple of days there and then went home. That's it. Didn't really remember much else about it, really.
It was a great album. Really enjoyed it. And then the last album was 2018, The Stars, the Oceans, and the Moon. Now, there's a couple of, obviously, new tracks on that. I spoke to Ian Mac round about that time, and he mentioned there was new music, a new album on its way. Now, it's 6 years on. Can fans still expect another Bunnymen album, or has the plans changed? What's happening?
No, I think it's still going on. He doesn't want me on it. So, is that a Bunnymen? Yeah.
No, it's not.
That's where we live now.
It's kind of crazy because the earlier albums, you were all over there, the music, and it seems, just from what you're telling me, your input's slowly dwindling.
Yeah, well, I tried my best. I don't know. Just the way it is.
So you don't know whether there's going to be anything new, you're going to be on anything in the future at all?
Yeah, I played on a bit, but not a lot.
But you'll still tour? If there's a tour, will you?
Yeah. Yeah, but what we generally do is we'll play a couple off the new record, and then it'll be one, and then it'll be none. That's kind of what happens, because the fans want to hear the first 4 albums and Lips Like Sugar and Last Forever or whatever, and that's it, I don't see anything wrong with that myself. Like, if I go and see somebody, I want them to play the thing, I want to see, Arthur Lee when he was still alive or whatever. I want to hear all the love stuff,
If someone wanted to understand Echo and the Bunnymen, what are the 5 songs they should listen to?
To understand?
Yeah.
I don't even understand it.
If you say somebody, get on the Echo and the Bunnymen, listen to these 5 songs, and it'll sum up who they are.
Well, the early days, Stars Are Stars is probably an interesting one because it's kind of sparkly and, over the wall. These aren't my favourite song. Like, Over the Wall is one of my favourites, but these aren't me, Gods Will Be Gods. I always like playing that one because it was just frantic and, just D from start to finish. Didn't have to really think about much else. I think Bedbugs and Ballios that sort of takes in like the sort of more musical kind of stuff. It's quite involved, like definitely on the bass.
Got a Doors vibe as well.
Well, yeah. Well, on the record we got Ray Manzarek playing.
That's right. Yeah.
Style keyboards on it.
That explains it then.
Mac got him into drinking mild. Don't know whether they have mild in Belfast.
What's that?
It's like a beer, but it's kind of like, it's like a very dark beer. It's not like Guinness or nothing, but it's only like 2% proof or something. It's quite low. So you can drink loads of it before you get bevied. I remember they used to go to a pub and fill up a big Coke bottle with mild for them, and then bring it back to Amazon Studios. But yeah. But, this is why I do all these other little projects as well, because I need some sort of creative outlet, and there's not really a lot now in the Bunnymen world, except for live. Like, I still love playing live. I love touring. I love the rest of the band, all the lads, the crew and everybody, they're great. And we have a good laugh, Do
you not get frustrated that musically you could bring a lot more to the band?
Yeah, of course I do. Yeah, but it's been so long now that I've been kind of ostracized, if you like, or whatever, that I'm used to it. And now the whole thought of doing it is, being totally, committed or involved in it or whatever you want to say, putting my ideas down. I'm used to it now.
It must be very frustrating, especially if you're brought in the studio to play on a track and you have ideas and you can't put those ideas down to improve the song. Surely it should always be about the song.
Yeah, and if I was allowed to go in the studio and do that, I would be allowed to do ideas. Like, that's what I do, but never get told. Yeah, it is a bit frustrating, but now it's gone so far that now I'm totally over it, and I do other things which, tweak me creative juices if you want. I've just done that Courtney Love record, and that was amazing. It's just so good. And I was just given free rein. They just sent me stems and did 11 tracks. Started out just 2 and then 4. And then sent us a couple more. And in the end, I did 11 tracks. And she just let me do whatever I wanted to do. And I built up loads of dead good sounds and, added bits. And I've took it completely somewhere else, from what it was.
Look forward to hearing that.
Yeah, it's like, I'm chuffed with it. And she's chuffed with it as well, and the producer. It was weird because I was doing it in my little studio in my basement here. And the producer's in Nashville. And Courtney lives in London, I think, so I was never like in a room with any of them. It was just, here's the tracks, do whatever you want.
There's 2 more songs to pick.
Killing Moon, obviously. It's a classic. Heads Will Roll. Like all that sort of kind of Indian kind of scale thing was like, a lot of it's like my influence, from the psychedelic world, if you like, So I loved all that. Yeah, so, yeah.
Looking back at the Bunnymen's catalogue, is there an album or a song that you feel is underrated?
Well, probably Silver. Silver, I think, is really good. Like, they've been using Killing Moon on that EE advert. I think they should use Silver on the next one. Yeah, it's really good. It's like, it was very influenced by Love as well. All that hope that, when we were in France, in Paris, doing that record, we were really listening to like Jack Brel, Love, Scott Walker. Wanted it to be like this big, glorious thing, And, the way Scott Walker used like orchestration, it's just beyond anybody else, except maybe the Beach Boys or somebody on the Beatles. Some of the sounds that he got, along with that amazing voice. How do you think of them things, So all that was like inspirational to us, definitely me and Lars and Pete. I think Mac was coming out more from a sort of Frank Sinatra, maybe, kind of big band kind of vibe. I don't know.
Yeah, and Arthur Lee and Love, for some reason, they seem to really inspire Liverpool musicians, from the Coral, yourselves, McKidd.
Yeah.
Very inspirational band for Liverpool.
And Beefheart. Beefheart were big in.
Beefheart, yeah.
I think there is a slight weird edge in Liverpool of like this kind of like, it's almost like a comedy kind of thing, Like there used to be a band that played Eric's called Dead Trout, and they used to play drums with bananas. They're brilliant.
For us music fans, music is the soundtrack to our memories. What song or album brings back the best memories for you?
Wow. Well, I'm thinking live gigs here,
Right.
I'm thinking the sensational Alex Harvey band at the Stadium, 1974 or whenever it was. Faith Healer. Do you know that song? Do you know them?
I know them, yes. Yeah, I know that song, yeah.
They did that, Delilah thing, which was a bit, like, us fans thought that was a bit silly, a bit daft, but it got them in the charts, Yeah, or Suicide, Ghost Rider, and Eric's, Led Zeppelin, Kashmir, 1975, the Earl's Court. That was incredible. And what I find incredible about Led Zeppelin is that there's not a lot on them records. Like, there isn't like thousands of overdubs, is there? There isn't. There just isn't like maybe a bit of organ here and there or whatever. But you never sort of, when you used to go and see the bands like that, and there was only the 4 of them on stage. It always still sounded dead full. And I don't think they had anyone underneath the stage playing extra guitar bits or whatever, but just the way they could play was like everything, like the bass would fill in somehow, or
The you think that's because, they were all very accomplished? I mean, they were all session musicians, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you seen the documentary yet? There's a new documentary.
I'll wait for that, yeah. And I want to go and see that. They've done a Pink Floyd live at Pompeii, haven't they?
Yeah, remastered.
And that's going to be, they've found some extra footage or something, and they're showing that somewhere. I think it's on in London at some point, so I might go down to that just to see. I saw it in the pictures when it came out. Another band that just, like they are my Radiohead, if you know what I mean. Like, I think Radiohead wants to be them, but that's kind of what they sort of are in a way. Yeah, Pink Floyd are definitely one of my favourites. If it was on a desert island and I had to take one album, I'd take Metal. And, it's not punk rock, but so what?
Yeah, well, you have a very eclectic taste, don't you?
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm a massive Eno fan as well. Like, I love Eno. I've always wanted to work with Eno. In fact, when we were doing Heaven Up Here, I suggested Eno to produce it. And the record company said, no, he's too weird. And I said, well, that's why we want him. And Mac went, well, I want David Bowie then.
Well, looking back at the Bunnymen's journey, if you could go back and relive one musical moment, what would it be?
Oh, maybe that tour in Sweden where we did cover versions. That was great. There was a lot of, we were comrades, it was, everybody was like mates and friendly and all up for the same crack. It was great. And we supported ourselves. So we went on, we did like 6 or 7 or 8 cover versions. And then we came on and did our set. But everyone remembers the cover version set, It's kind of, it wasn't just all psychedelic stuff. It was like we did Big Country by Talking Heads, Television, we did Friction. But we also did It's All Over Now, Baby Blue, but the Chocolate Watch Band version. That's the version we sort of learned from. Yeah. That was great. And it was in tour around Sweden, and I think we might have done Netherlands as well and places like that. But yeah, because they were all new. It was like going to, Holland and seeing these little towns, and it was just great. The bridge at Arnhem. We were in a hotel right by that bridge. When the film A Bridge Too Far, and you just imagine, them places what it was like in the war. With like, Gestapo in the squares drinking beer. You just think, okay, now this happened here. It's crazy. Well, soon be Ruskies.
Last one, Will. You once said that your ultimate goal was for Echo and the Bunnymen to be remembered as a classic band. Looking back now, you feel you've achieved that legacy?
It's getting there. Definitely getting there. We're seeing, as like a thing where a couple of our records should be in your collection, Definitely. I like the likes of, Killing Moon. It's become this classic beast. It's like almost like the only song we're known for, That sort of annoys you a little bit. But it is still a great song. It's a brilliant song. That was a fluke for me. The guitar thing at the beginning, that little
yeah.
It's just something I did while we were like waiting to put the backing track down. And then we went for a curry, and we came back and the producer spotted it, bounced it onto a 1/4-inch tape, doubled it, so it did it twice. Like sampled it almost, before samplers were invented. And then and then he fed it in. He said, I've got this idea for the intro. And we all thought it was great, but then I had to kind of try and learn how to play it, because I didn't remember what I'd done. It was just like a little fluke. It was just like checking it was in tune, really. And I'm still not sure whether I'm playing it right.
Happy accidents.
What?
Happy accidents.
Yeah, it's a total happy accident. That's what's great about, recording when you're all in together, and, rather than nowadays where it's like a lot of it's done separately. Or you'll put something down, then you'll add the drums later or something. It's crazy. Computers are brilliant for recording, but tape, the limitations of tape was great because it meant that you sort of had everything on there had to mean something or be worth something, you know. Now you can just keep going forever and you end up with this like wash, you know, of stuff that you and then if you take something away, you think, oh, I kind of miss that now, you know, put it back, but then it dissipates the whole thing. It's like, it's hard to edit, you know, to take things out and throw them away. You know, oh, that's a great little guitar bit, but it's gone now. Tell you what, we'll put it in the second verse and get rid of the other guitar bit that was in the, you know what I mean? Do things like that. And then it all starts sounding a bit like it's disjointed. It's kind of weird. It's good to limit yourself sometimes, you know.
What's next for yourself and Echo and the Bunnymen? What's your future plans? What's anything happening this year? Your EPs or your one that you did in 1978? That's one.
Oh yeah, the Weirdest Fish thing. Yeah, that's come out. It's only 500 of them. It's just like a little, you know, it's a little project. So that, I see it as like a sort of artifact and kind of snapshot of the time, really, you know. Like the whole concept of it was to just do one vinyl record at the beginning. And that was the idea. And that's the artifact. And then anything else is considered like a print. So I've sort of kind of amalgamated that in a bit because I've done 50 where I've painted the covers. So they all went in 5 minutes. So it's sort of started off as just, I want to just make one record and like, that's it. It's kind of a weird abstract concept, you know, kind of me being arty, if you like. But I'm doing later on, I've got a record coming out where it's just a one-sided track, and it's there's only going to be one of them. I've got it over there, and it's a clear vinyl, one-sided, and it's going to be kind of not like raffled, but like a kind of almost like a lottery kind of thing, you know, which is sort of a raffle, is, but you know, so there's only going to be one ever.
Wow,
so
that'd be good.
Yeah, I like that. I'm a collector of records, you know what I mean. So I like making things that become collectible, you know.
Well, that's me done. Well, thank you very, very much. I really appreciate your time. So hopefully we will hear you again on a Bunnymen record.
It's on this new one, but not much. It's weird. The whole thing's weird now.
Well, you should be all over it.
Yeah, I know. I know. But I'm all over Courtney's record, and I'm very proud of it. And show what I can do, you know.
Yeah, we look forward to hearing that.
Yeah, it's got to be mixed yet, so it was good having the leeway and the freedom, you know.
Okay, well, thank you very, very much. Really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, cool. All right.
Okay. Have a good day, mate. Take it easy.
Ta-ra. See ya.
Bye.